The sprawling estate, nestled amidst rolling hills and manicured gardens, stood as a testament to Jake Sterling's brilliance and drive. Known as Sterling Manor, it was more than just a home. It was a symbol of his unparalleled success in the tech industry. Crystal chandeliers imported from Italy cast shimmering patterns on the marble floors, guarded by state-of-the-art security systems. Rare sculptures acquired from around the world adorned the terraces, each a testament to Jake's refined taste. And the atmosphere hummed with the subdued energy of a staff meticulously tending to every detail, ensuring that Jake's every need was anticipated and met. But within this luxurious enclosure, a complex drama was quietly unfolding, a narrative of calculated deception, profound loss, and the blossoming of an improbable, yet deeply genuine affection. Jake Sterling, once the golden boy of Silicon Valley, a man whose name was synonymous with innovation and disruption, was now confined to a custom-built motorized wheelchair. The accident, a horrific collision with a distracted driver on a rain-slicked highway, had occurred 3 years prior, irrevocably altering the course of his life. It left him paralyzed from the neck down, a brilliant mind trapped within a body that no longer obeyed his commands. His vibrant existence was now reduced to a series of monitored blinks, subtle facial expressions, and carefully considered verbal commands executed via sophisticated voice recognition software. He was a king without a realm, a brilliant strategist whose only battlefield was now the confines of his own mind. The physical pain was constant, a dull throb that never truly subsided, but the emotional pain was far more acute, a constant reminder of all that he had lost. Enter Sophie. Young, strikingly beautiful, and fiercely driven, she had entered Jake's life 8 months after the accident, seemingly like a ray of sunshine piercing through the darkness of his despair. She was a vibrant splash of color in his sterile, medically regulated world, a dazzling vision of youthful energy and enthusiasm that seemed to promise to dispel the shadows that clung to him. She was a social media influencer, with a carefully cultivated image of sophistication and compassion, and her arrival was perfectly timed to boost Jake's image, and more importantly her own. She exuded confidence, charm, and a seemingly genuine interest in Jake's well-being. He was smitten, flattered by her attention, and perhaps desperately yearning for the possibility of experiencing love and companionship again. He saw her as a lifeline, a chance to reclaim some semblance of his former life. They married within a year, in a lavish ceremony that cost millions. The gossip columns splashed their story across every glossy magazine and online news outlet. Tech titan finds love after tragedy. A modern-day fairy tale, the headlines proclaimed. The public, always hungry for a captivating story of love overcoming adversity, devoured every detail. But behind the expertly staged photo shoots, the carefully worded interviews, and the saccharine smiles, a more sinister truth was brewing, hidden beneath layers of expensive makeup and carefully chosen designer clothing. Sophie's affection for Jake was as shallow as a decorative fountain, designed to impress but ultimately lacking in substance. She had married him not for love, but for his wealth, for the security and prestige that came with being Mrs. Jake Sterling, the wife of one of the world's richest men. Sterling Manor was her personal playground, a stage upon which she could play the role of a wealthy and sophisticated socialite. The staff were her personal assistants, catering to her every whim and desire. And Jake, well, Jake was simply a means to an end, a valuable asset that she intended to exploit to its fullest potential. The cameras loved her, the press adored her, and Sophie basked in the attention, oblivious to the growing darkness surrounding her. She feigned concern, her voice dripping with manufactured sympathy as she attended to his needs, reading to him from the business news, which she found excruciatingly boring, and pretending to be fascinated by his ventures. All the while, she secretly devised ways to gain control of his considerable fortune, plotting and scheming with a cold, calculating efficiency that belied her youthful appearance. When she believed no one was watching, her carefully constructed facade crumbled. The sweet smile would vanish, replaced by a look of cold calculation, and her voice would harden with impatience. She resented the time she had to spend with Jake, seeing it as a waste of her precious youth. The charade extended far beyond the boundaries of Sterling Manor. As Jake was confined to his wheelchair, So Sophie felt confined to her marital role, a gilded cage of her own making. She craved excitement, the thrill of adoration from others, and above all, freedom from the constraints of her marriage. Her solution was as predictable as it was callous, a betrayal that cut deep into Jake's already wounded heart. She began an affair with Adam, Jake's ambitious and undeniably attractive business partner, a man who had been a close friend to Jake for many years. Adam saw Jake's vulnerability as a golden opportunity to advance his own career, and he was more than willing to exploit the situation to his advantage. Their rendezvous were secret, fleeting moments of passion concealed from prying eyes. They met in luxurious penthouses overlooking the city, in the hidden corners of exclusive restaurants, where discretion was guaranteed, wherever they believed they could evade detection. Sophie reveled in the danger, the thrill of betrayal adding a perverse pleasure to their illicit affair. She felt alive, powerful, and in control. Adam, for his part, saw Sophie as a means to an end, a pawn in his grand scheme to seize control of Jake's empire, to finally step out of Jake's shadow and become the leader he always believed he should be. He fed her ego, showering her with compliments and promises of a future where they would rule together. Unbeknownst to Sophie and Adam, their affair was not as clandestine as they believed. Observing from the periphery, a silent witness to the unfolding drama of the Sterling household, was Sara. Sara was the head housekeeper at Sterling Manor, a woman of quiet strength, unwavering integrity, and a profound sense of loyalty. She had been with the Sterling family for over 15 years, long before the accident that changed Jake's life forever, long before Sophie's arrival. She had witnessed Jake's rise to prominence, his generosity towards his employees, his genuine kindness, and the deep sense of responsibility he felt towards those who depended on him. She had seen him at his best, and now saw him at his most vulnerable. She saw him not as a tech mogul, but as a human being, a good man trapped in an impossible situation. She knew his favorite tea, his preferred temperature for the room, and the exact way he liked his pillows arranged. Sara was a woman of simple pleasures and profound integrity. She found beauty in the ordinary, in the precise folding of linens, in the satisfying gleam of polished wood, in the quiet order she brought to the seeming chaos of the estate. She found satisfaction in her work, in knowing that she was making Jake's life a little easier. She had no aspirations for wealth or influence, no desire to climb the social ladder. Her only concern was for the well-being of Jake, the man she had come to respect and admire over the years. He had always treated her with respect, valuing her opinion and appreciating her hard work. It was Sara who managed Jake's day-to-day care, ensuring he was comfortable, that his needs were met, that he had everything he required to maintain some semblance of normalcy. She learned to interpret the subtle nuances of his blinks, the slight movements of his eyes, the almost imperceptible changes in his breathing patterns. She became his confidant, his silent partner in navigating the treacherous currents of his new reality. She knew when he was in pain, when he was frustrated, and when he simply needed someone to listen. Sara first suspected Sophie's infidelity when she overheard hushed phone conversations, witnessed secretive glances exchanged between Sophie and Adam, and noticed late-night outings that seemed highly questionable. She initially dismissed it, hoping she was mistaken, telling herself that she was being overly suspicious. But then she saw Sophie leaving the estate, late one night, dressed in a way that was far too alluring for a simple dinner engagement with girlfriends. Sara followed her, driven by a growing sense of unease and a deep-seated desire to protect Jake from further harm. She borrowed the estate's less conspicuous vehicle, a black SUV used for errands, and kept a safe distance, her heart pounding in her chest. What she witnessed that night confirmed her worst fears and sent a cold shiver down her spine. She saw Sophie meeting Adam in a secluded location, a hidden park on the outskirts of town, their embrace passionate and unmistakable. The sight of their betrayal made Sara's stomach churn. She knew she couldn't remain silent. She couldn't stand by and watch Sophie and Adam continue to deceive and exploit Jake. He deserved to know the truth, no matter how devastating it might be. But how could she tell him? How could she shatter his already broken heart without causing him further pain and suffering? She wrestled with her conscience for days, torn between her loyalty to Jake and her apprehension about the consequences of her actions. Sophie wielded considerable authority within the estate, and Sara knew that if she were discovered, she would be dismissed without a second thought, her reputation tarnished. She feared for her livelihood, but the thought of Jake being continually deceived outweighed her own personal concerns. Ultimately, she decided she had no choice. She couldn't stand by and watch Sophie continue to exploit Jake's vulnerability. She knew she had to act, regardless of the personal risk and the potential repercussions. She decided to gather more evidence, to be absolutely certain before confronting Jake with such devastating news. She began to document Sophie's comings and goings, discreetly taking photos and videos whenever possible. She also paid closer attention to Adam's behavior, noticing his frequent visits to the estate and his increasingly familiar interactions with Sophie. One afternoon, after several weeks of gathering evidence, Sara found her opportunity. She was helping Jake with his physical therapy exercises, carefully guiding his limbs through a series of movements designed to maintain some muscle tone and prevent further atrophy. He was in a particularly good mood, having just received positive feedback from his doctors. As he rested, Sara took a deep breath and steeled herself for what she had to do. "Mr. Sterling," she began, her voice barely audible above the gentle hum of the machines, "there is something I need to tell you, something of great importance, and something that I have struggled with for a long time." Jake blinked slowly, his eyes fixed on Sara's face, sensing the seriousness in her tone. He understood that whatever she was about to reveal was significant and potentially life-altering. He braced himself, knowing that it couldn't be good news. Sara took another deep breath and began to tell him everything. She described Sophie's secretive behavior, her late-night excursions, her whispered phone calls, and finally the affair with Adam. She presented him with the evidence she had gathered, the photos and videos that confirmed their betrayal beyond any doubt. She spoke with unwavering honesty, her voice filled with a mixture of sadness, concern, and a deep sense of responsibility. She emphasized that she was only telling him this because she cared about him and wanted to protect him from further harm. As Sara spoke, Jake's eyes widened in shock and disbelief, then slowly filled with a profound sense of pain and betrayal. He blinked rapidly, struggling to process the enormity of Sophie's deception and Adam's treachery. He felt a sharp, piercing pain in his chest, as if his heart was breaking all over again. He had been so naive, so desperate for love and companionship, that he had blinded himself to the truth, refusing to see the warning signs. He had trusted Sophie and Adam implicitly, and they had both betrayed him in the most despicable way. When Sara finished, the room was silent, filled only with the faint hum of the machines that sustained Jake's life. Jake lay motionless, his eyes closed, his breathing shallow and erratic. Sara feared she had made a terrible mistake, that she had caused him irreparable harm. She reached out to take his hand, her own trembling with anxiety. After what felt like an eternity, Jake opened his eyes. He looked at Sara, his gaze filled with a complex mixture of gratitude, despair, and a glimmer of something else, a flicker of hope. He blinked once, slowly and deliberately, acknowledging that he understood what she had told him. It was his way of saying, "Thank you, Sara. I appreciate your honesty, even though it hurts." Sara knew then that she had done the right thing, that Jake deserved to know the truth, no matter how devastating it was. She also knew that she would be there for him, to help him through this difficult time, to provide him with the support and companionship he needed. Over the next few weeks, Sara became Jake's steadfast ally in a quiet yet determined battle against Sophie and Adam. The atmosphere at Sterling Manor shifted, becoming thick with tension and suspicion. Sophie, sensing that something was amiss, grew increasingly anxious and irritable, lashing out at the staff and demanding constant reassurance from Adam. Adam, in turn, became more distant and preoccupied, his mind racing with calculations and contingency plans. He knew that if their affair was exposed, his career and reputation would be ruined. Jake, though physically incapacitated, was far from defeated. He possessed a brilliant mind and a ruthless determination to protect his empire and his legacy. He began to communicate with Sara through a sophisticated head tracking system connected to a custom-built computer. This system allowed him to control the computer with his eye movements, enabling him to compose emails, conduct research, and communicate with the outside world. It was a slow and arduous process, but it gave him a voice, a means to fight back against those who had wronged him. He and Sara worked tirelessly, poring over financial records, legal documents, and communication logs, searching for evidence of Sophie's and Adam's wrongdoing. They discovered a complex web of deceit, a series of shell corporations and offshore accounts that Sophie and Adam had established to siphon funds from Jake's companies. They also uncovered emails and text messages that documented their affair in explicit detail, leaving no doubt as to their betrayal. Sara proved to be an invaluable asset, her attention to detail and her intimate knowledge of the estate, allowing her to uncover crucial pieces of evidence that Jake would have otherwise missed. She also acted as his discreet messenger, communicating with his lawyers and investigators, relaying information and instructions, while ensuring that Sophie and Adam remained unaware of their activities. As they worked together, Jake and Sara's bond deepened, evolving from a professional relationship into a deep and abiding friendship. Jake found solace in Sara's quiet strength and unwavering loyalty. He admired her integrity, her compassion, and her unwavering commitment to doing what was right, even when it was difficult. He began to see her not just as his housekeeper, but as a trusted confidant, a kindred spirit who understood him in a way that few others ever had. Sara, in turn, was inspired by Jake's resilience and his determination to overcome the challenges he faced. She admired his intelligence, his wit, and his unwavering optimism, even in the face of adversity. She found herself drawn to his vulnerability, his willingness to admit his mistakes, and his genuine desire to make amends. She began to see him not just as her employer, but as a friend, a mentor, and someone she deeply respected. Meanwhile, Sophie and Adam, blinded by their own greed and ambition, continued their charade, becoming increasingly reckless in their actions. They spent Jake's money lavishly, indulging in extravagant vacations, expensive jewelry, and luxurious cars. They openly flaunted their relationship in social circles, seemingly oblivious to the whispers and rumors that circulated behind their backs. They believed they were untouchable, that Jake was too incapacitated to challenge them. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than they anticipated. Jake, armed with irrefutable evidence of Sophie's and Adam's betrayal, summoned his lawyers and confronted them with their wrongdoing. The meeting took place in the grand library of Sterling Manor, a room filled with leather-bound books and antique furniture, a fitting backdrop for the drama that was about to unfold. Sophie, dressed in an expensive designer dress and dripping with jewels, initially denied the accusations, claiming that Jake was delusional and that Sara was manipulating him. She launched into a tirade, accusing Jake of being cruel, ungrateful, and paranoid. She threatened to expose his secrets, to destroy his reputation, to paint him as a bitter, disabled man who was lashing out at those who cared for him. Adam, ever the smooth and calculating lawyer, attempted a more subtle approach. He pleaded with Jake, offering excuses and apologies, claiming that he had been blinded by Sophie's beauty and that he regretted his actions. He offered to resign from his position at Jake's company, to sever all ties with Sophie, and to do whatever it took to regain Jake's trust. But Jake remained unmoved by their pleas and their lies. He had seen their true colors, and he was no longer willing to tolerate their deceit. He presented them with the evidence he had gathered, the financial records, the emails, and the text messages that proved their guilt beyond any doubt. He informed them that he was terminating their employment, dissolving their partnerships, and filing criminal charges against them for fraud, embezzlement, and breach of contract. Sophie, realizing that her charade was over, flew into a rage. She screamed and cursed at Jake, accusing him of ruining her life. She threatened to take him down with her, to reveal his darkest secrets to the world. She stormed out of the library, leaving Adam to face the consequences of his actions alone. Adam, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him, pleaded with Jake for mercy. He begged him not to press charges, claiming that it would ruin his career and destroy his family. He promised to repay the stolen funds, to cooperate with the investigation, and to do whatever it took to make amends. Jake listened to Adam's pleas in silence, his face an impassive mask. He felt a flicker of pity for the man who had once been his friend, but he knew that he couldn't allow Adam to escape the consequences of his actions. He had to hold him accountable for his betrayal, not just for his own sake, but for the sake of all those who had been harmed by his greed and ambition. He informed Adam that he was turning him over to the authorities and that he would cooperate fully with the investigation. He wished Adam well, but he made it clear that he could no longer trust him or consider him a friend. With Sophie and Adam out of the picture, Jake was finally free from their deceit and manipulation. But he was also alone, facing the daunting task of rebuilding his life and his empire. He had lost his trust in others, and he was filled with a profound sense of sadness and disappointment. He questioned his own judgment, wondering how he could have been so blind to their true nature. In the aftermath of the scandal, Sara remained by Jake's side, providing him with unwavering support, comfort, and companionship. She helped him to navigate the legal proceedings, to manage his business affairs, and to cope with the emotional fallout of the betrayal. She was his rock, his anchor in a storm, the one person he could rely on to tell him the truth, even when it was difficult to hear. As the weeks turned into months, Jake began to rely on Sara more and more. He valued her opinion, her judgment, and her unwavering loyalty. He found himself drawn to her quiet strength, her gentle compassion, and her unwavering belief in his ability to overcome the challenges he faced. He began to see her in a new light, not just as his housekeeper, but as a remarkable woman who had changed his life for the better. One evening, as Sara was reading to him from his favorite book, a collection of poetry by Robert Frost, Jake stopped her. He looked at her, his eyes filled with a warmth and affection that he had never shown anyone before. He used his head tracking system to type a message on the computer screen, his fingers trembling with anticipation. Sara, the message read, appearing slowly on the screen, each letter a testament to the effort it took for Jake to communicate. I have come to realize that you are the most extraordinary woman I have ever known. Before the accident, I was so consumed with building my empire that I failed to appreciate the simple things in life. I chased success and fortune, but I neglected the things that truly matter: kindness, compassion, and genuine human connection. You have shown me those things, Sara, in abundance. You have been my friend, my confidant, my rock during the darkest period of my life. You have believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. You have shown me what it truly means to be human. I know that I am not the man I once was. I am confined to this chair, dependent on others for my basic needs. I am not sure I have anything to offer you, but I have something to ask you, something that I have been afraid to ask for a long time. Will you marry me, Sara? Will you be my wife? Sara was stunned, her heart pounding in her chest. She looked at Jake, her eyes filled with tears of joy and disbelief. She had never dared to dream that he could feel this way about her, that he could see her as anything more than his housekeeper. She had always admired him, respected him, and cared for him deeply, but she had never allowed herself to imagine that he could reciprocate those feelings. Sterling, she stammered, her voice choked with emotion. I don't know what to say. I am so honored, so touched by your words. But are you sure? Are you sure this is what you want? I am just a simple woman, a housekeeper. I don't have your wealth, your status, your education. I am not sure I am worthy of you. Jake smiled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. He used the head tracking system to type another message on the screen. Worthy, the message read. Sara, you are more than worthy. You are everything I have ever wanted in a partner, in a wife. You are kind, compassionate, intelligent, and strong. You are the most genuine person I have ever met. You have seen me at my worst, and you have still chosen to stay by my side. You have shown me what true love is, Sara. Please, say yes. Say that you will be my wife. Sara could no longer contain her emotions. Tears streamed down her face as she reached out and took Jake's hand in hers, squeezing it tightly. Yes, she said softly, her voice trembling with emotion. Yes, Jake, I will marry you. I would be honored to be your wife. Jake's face lit up with a radiant smile. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, a sense of peace and contentment washing over him. He had found love in the most unexpected of places, with the most unexpected of people. He had learned that true wealth lies not in money or power, but in the connections we make with others, in the kindness we show to those in need, and in the unwavering commitment to living a life of integrity and purpose. The wedding took place several months later, in the gardens of Sterling Manor, surrounded by close friends and family. It was a small, intimate ceremony, a far cry from the lavish spectacle that had accompanied Jake's marriage to Sophie. There were no flashing cameras, no sensational headlines, no celebrity guests. It was a simple celebration of love, loyalty, and the unexpected paths that life can take. Sara wore a simple, elegant white dress, her face radiant with happiness. Jake, dressed in a custom-tailored suit, watched her with a look of adoration, his eyes filled with love and gratitude. The ceremony was officiated by a close friend of Jake's, a retired judge who had known him for many years. The vows were heartfelt and deeply personal, a testament to the unique bond that had formed between Jake and Sara. After the ceremony, the guests gathered for a reception in the grand ballroom of Sterling Manor. The room was decorated with flowers, candles, and soft lighting, creating a warm and romantic atmosphere. Jake and Sara shared their first dance as husband and wife, swaying gently to the music, their eyes locked in a loving gaze. As they danced, Jake whispered to Sara, his voice barely audible above the music, "I love you, Sara. Thank you for giving me a second chance at happiness." Sara smiled, tears still glistening in her eyes. "I love you too, Jake," she whispered back. "You have given me so much more than a second chance at happiness. You have given me a life I never dreamed possible. You have shown me what it means to be loved and cherished for who I am, not for what I have. Thank you for choosing me." Their marriage was a testament to the power of genuine connection, a reminder that true love can blossom in the most unlikely of circumstances. It was a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in a world often filled with darkness and despair. Over the years that followed, Jake and Sara built a life filled with love, laughter, and purpose. They traveled the world, exploring new cultures, experiencing new adventures, and creating memories that would last a lifetime. They supported numerous charitable causes, donating their time and resources to organizations dedicated to helping those in need. They became advocates for disability rights, working tirelessly to raise awareness and promote inclusion for people with disabilities. Jake, with Sara's unwavering support, found new ways to contribute to society, using his wealth and influence to make a positive impact on the world. He invested in research and development of assistive technologies, creating innovative solutions to help people with disabilities live more independent and fulfilling lives. He established a foundation dedicated to funding programs that support disabled individuals, providing them with access to education, employment, and health care. He also became a mentor to young entrepreneurs, sharing his knowledge and experience to help them succeed in the tech industry. He inspired countless people with his story of resilience, proving that even in the face of adversity, it is possible to find love, happiness, and fulfillment. Sara, meanwhile, continued to be Jake's rock, his confidant, and his best friend. She managed the household, coordinated his care, and supported his charitable endeavors. She also pursued her own interests, taking classes in art history, volunteering at a local animal shelter, and spending time with her friends and family. She became a pillar of the community, known for her kindness, her compassion, and her unwavering commitment to helping others. She inspired countless people with her story of transformation, proving that it is never too late to pursue your dreams and to make a difference in the world. Sophie, consumed by bitterness and regret, faded into obscurity. Her dreams of wealth and power had turned to ashes, and she was left with nothing but the consequences of her own greed and deceit. She attempted to launch a comeback, to rebuild her shattered reputation, but her efforts were met with scorn and ridicule. She eventually retreated from the public eye, living a life of isolation and despair. Adam, his reputation ruined and his career in tatters, faced criminal charges for his role in the fraud and embezzlement scheme. He was convicted and sentenced to several years in prison. He lost everything he had gained through his association with Jake, and he was forced to confront the consequences of his unethical actions. He spent his time in prison reflecting on his mistakes, regretting the choices he had made, and longing for a second chance. In the end, the story of Jake and Sara was a story of redemption, a testament to the enduring power of love, loyalty, and forgiveness. It was a story that proved that true wealth lies not in money or status, but in the connections we forge with others, in the kindness we extend to those in need, and in the unwavering commitment to living a life of integrity and purpose. The crystal chandelier at Sterling Manor still shone brightly, casting its shimmering light upon the grand ballroom. But now it illuminated a love built on something far more precious than wealth or fame. It illuminated a love that had weathered the storms of life, a love that had grown stronger with each passing year, a love that would endure for all eternity. And so they lived, not just happily ever after, but meaningfully ever after. Two souls bound together by fate, circumstance, and the unyielding power of the human spirit. Their story became a legend, a tale told and retold for generations to come, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, hope can prevail, love can conquer all, and true happiness can be found in the most unexpected of places. The legacy of Jake and Sara Sterling lived on, inspiring countless others to live lives of purpose, compassion, and unwavering love.